Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing. We are pushing right along with Spooktober,
Spooktober.
Ooh, and with a very recently released game, at least as of the time of this recording. So it, it's not Silk Song, though that seems to have hogged all the spotlight
Sorry to
recently.
disappoint.
But at the same time, we're highlighting something that may have very easily been overlooked, considering this has just been a blockbuster couple of months for game releases. So we'll get to that. But first, I'm here with Cody, and just the two of us tonight. But
Oh
let's find out.
yeah.
Let's find out what's new. Cody, what's been going on in your world?
Boy, what has been going on in my world? Mostly preparing for the annual Halloween party here, although honestly I took too many days off this week than I should have. I was sick for a couple days and then kind of just had like a sanity day in there, and I mean technically I have a crap ton of stuff I need to grade for school, so it's kind of balance of my health, work responsibilities, and then actually getting this done. But we're recording this on Friday of the weekend, and then I'm hoping to spend Sunday, and then Monday is Indigenous Peoples Day here coming up, and that's usually kind of my annual line in the sand of like, this is the last day before I really need to panic about where we're at here. So hopefully I get some time in on Sunday and Monday this long weekend here and can make some progress on that. Besides that, I guess I will just say we have been watching oddly due to streaming rights is really the real reason why we were watching the Mission Impossible films, which I know I had seen the first one a long time ago, and I know Joe loves them. We watched the second one, our family, after the first one, and then we watched the third one after that. But before we could get to the fourth one, where they stopped being the numbered installments, I think Ghost Protocols number four,
Sure.
we were watching them on Netflix, and they lost basically the rights to them at the end of September. I gather they have gone to Paramount, so we don't have that. So that's kind of where we stopped. So ipso facto here, we have started rewatching The Curse of Oak Island, season 10 of 13 that they are currently on, only because we had purchased season 10 way back in the day and only made it like 5 episodes through that season. So we've been picking up there, and we've watched maybe, I don't even know, 3 or 4 episodes there, but super fun guys. Great family show, if you will. I mean, there's literal family on the show, and then also the guys that work together eventually become like a family, and it's always great to see them. They're especially one of the reasons I've always liked them is they're especially um, what do I want to say here? Not honoring, but they treat the past and people's stories with such like I don't know, good intentions, I guess. And the
Hmm.
word is escaping me here, but like they really take the time to care about what somebody else's story or connection to this island was, and like what was their family's connection to this, 20 years ago or 50 years ago or whatever. And many episodes they've actually brought, future generations of those family members to the island, or they'd be like, this is where Grandpa spent, 1957 for the summer when he was here working on this island or whatever. And so they always
Wow.
have relevancy is not the right word. I'm getting closer to grasping at it, but I can't quite
Um,
think of what it is. The R letter R is coming to me, but I don't know why. But
Respect,
yeah, I guess yeah,
conscientiousness
we
came
could
to
we could
mind.
we could
Yeah.
just say respect, I guess, to everybody
Yeah.
that's there. But yeah, so we're back in
Yeah.
that. That's kind of interesting to hop back in after we haven't watched basically in 3 years. So
Hmm.
that's where we're at. How about you, Justin? What have you been up to?
Nice. Well, actually, since that show had come up in conversation between the two of us recently, I've started watching it too. I'm not going to get as far as you, I don't think, because Prime only has the first three seasons available for streaming. I'm maybe 3 or 4 episodes into season one, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's intriguing. I mean, I like the lore. I like the personalities of the people involved and all that. I'm not so sure I'm sold on the narrator, like the Discover History Channel or Discovery Channel,
Yep.
whatever it was originally on. Just going through and narrating what's going on,
Oh, he's gonna
because
get worse. Just wait.
oh goody, because there are times where they're like going over old footage, and he's like, uh, I'm blanking on the name, but the one of the earlier groups that looked to try to excavate this island, he's like, oh, here's footage from it, and if you see here, there's, he swears he's found like old tools, and there's like an outline of something you don't even have a chance to look at beforehand, and what he thinks is a treasure chest, and it's just like. It's like one of those like Learning Channel ghost shows, like the bad
Oh,
ones, where it's like if you look at this grainy footage where I've drawn an outline of a face, you can see I've drawn an outline of a face, and it's just not even giving you a chance to look at what you're supposed to be seeing before it's just, glowy lines over top of it. And I could do without the narrator, or at least having him dial things back, but it sounds like he's not going to. So,
no, and he's going to get
um,
more repetitive, sadly, as it goes on.
uh,
So, but
but overall, I like the theme, the ideas, the just the atmosphere of the show.
yeah.
Aside from that, so let's see. Beyond that, after finishing the game we are talking about tonight, I did look to jump onto other recent horror titles. Started playing Silent Hill F,
Mm.
and it was great until it stopped working the way it was supposed to. Like, I got to the first other world. I'm not going to spoil anything, but the Silent Hill always has this
Yeah.
other world that's attached to ours. I got to the first section of that. I'm like, oh, how are they going to approach this in like a 1960s Japanese setting instead of like the sleepy American town? And it's like, okay, I wake up in this shrine where everything kind of fades into darkness aside from this one area, and there's a puzzle. I solve the puzzle, and it kicks off a chase sequence, and kind of Evil Dead style, where there's something like the camera is whatever's chasing you. You can't see it, and you're just like running away from it. And as I'm running, all of a sudden the screen starts doing these like weird glitchy things. I'm like, oh, I thought it was intentional. It's like, oh, yeah, that's an
Sure.
interesting choice. It doesn't necessarily fit thematically, but maybe it's
Horror
indicative of my
game, right? Yeah.
sanity, yeah, fraying. And then I get through the chase sequence and to something that's much slower paced, and you're just like following someone down a path, and it's doing it again, except worse, where it's like picture in picture, except the picture that's supposed to be in the picture is like it's my entire screen, but smaller, shoved up into the upper left of the screen and flickering. And under it, like on the borders of it, there are like vertical lines that make the game virtually unplayable.
Oh
Um,
no.
so I tried, and I'm sure once they patch it, it might be a perfectly fine game. But right now, I literally cannot play it.
Is this,
Um,
have you looked? Have other people had this as well?
I found mentions of other graphical glitches, like just random artifacts popping up on the screen, but not, it doesn't seem like I found anyone else complaining of exactly what I've run into.
Wow. Okay.
I've written down a few of the suggestions for fixing the other glitches in hopes that maybe that'll fix what I'm doing, but I haven't gotten back to it yet. But up until that point, it seemed like a perfectly fine game. Very nice to look at. Just it really captured the what I imagine is the feel of a sleepy Japanese village out in the mountains. And yeah, it's once they iron out the significant bugs, I look forward to getting back to it. But right now, I have to reserve judgment on the game itself. So that's kind of been it for me. I am happy to say the game we're about to talk about today, I had no problem with. Well, I had one small issue, but compared to Silent Hill F, nothing really worth mentioning. So, without further ado, today we are here to talk about a little, as I said, a possibly overlooked game called Cronos: The New Dawn. That's Cronos, Cronos, not no H, um, made by Bloober Team, who has a up till this point, shall we say, a uneven track record of the games they've produced. If you're not familiar with them, let's spend, I guess, a little time giving you some background on this developer, and what their previous games had been. So the one that kind of got their name out there initially was Layers of Fear, released way back in
Oh wow.
2016.
Okay.
Yeah, they had a few other games before that, but that was really the one that kind of got their name recognized. And that was I mean, a visually attractive game. Pitted you as a struggling artist in a mansion where your sanity is kind of unraveling around you, and depending on what you did or didn't do as you wandered around the house, that would affect the ending you got.
Who knew I
I,
played one of their games? I didn't.
but yeah, and I may say wandering around the house because that's really all you do. Up until for some reason, Konami decided to put them in charge of remastering or like completely remaking Silent Hill 2, which had a lot of people just kind of aghast because up until that point, all of their games were just walking simulators where you either couldn't fight back against the things that were threatening you, or that there really was no actual threat whatsoever, and it was just all kind of set pieces where you couldn't really die. You weren't ever in any danger, at least of the games of theirs that I've played.
They
Um,
do Observer too.
yep, up until I haven't played there's the Silent Hill 2 remake, but
Do you own stock
uh,
in this company, or are you just tricking me into buying all their games?
well, like I said, Layers of Fear I wasn't a big fan of. Observer though is was the one good game they had made up until recent years, it seems like, because that one was a weird like cyberpunk detective story where it's still primarily a walking simulator with some dodgy forced stealth mechanics, but the story and just the atmosphere and the world they had built up was really, really cool. And up until this point, that would have been like the one truly good game they had made, in my opinion. I've heard very good things about the Silent Hill 2 remake, but I haven't played it. But like I said, that one sounds like it is where they finally started finding their feet, and where you could actually do more than just like run and hide from the monsters that were out in, in the surrounding areas. Which brings us to Cronos,
Hold
which is the
on, hold
game.
on.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Side note,
Yes.
if anybody wants to hear Justin vent about Layers of Fear, go back and listen to episode 125 of Friends Occasionally Not Disagree.
Yes, yes. They did do a remaster of that game. I believe I at least played the original version. I can't remember if you played
I
the
think I did play the
remaster.
new version.
Okay,
It was
so you'll
probably as
get
good as the original.
so if you're curious about their earlier work and their earlier missteps, yeah, that's a good other look at some of their projects. One of the projects. So yeah, they really seem to have proved themselves with Silent Hill 2, remaking that and making it, just as good as the original from what it sounds like. But again, we're not here to talk about that one. We're here to talk about a completely original property, Chronos: The New Dawn. This one, how did you first come across this game, Cody? Did you hear it from like one of us? Did you just see a trailer? Do you remember?
I could be wrong, but I feel like it might have been in one of the Nintendo Direct sizzle reels they did.
Hmm,
I feel
that's
like there was a
possible.
clip in there, like a 45-second clip of it or something.
Okay. On my side, it was, I don't remember if it was Tokyo Game Show or one of the other things that sprung up to fill the gap, Gamescom maybe, the gap that E3 left. But it was a cinematic trailer. It looked really weird, but I don't think there was any actual gameplay. But the most important thing was it looked like you could actually fight back. Because again, all the other games of theirs I'd played had just been you run away or you hide, or there's really nothing to run away from or hide in the first place. But the idea that they were actually taking combat into account and doing it in such a strange setting, that really caught my attention. And what a strange setting it is. Let's see. But we will get to that. But let's focus on the gameplay first, simply because this was a step outside of their comfort zone. Because combat seemed like a very new thing to this developer. Um, so how did you feel that like the gameplay, the combat was in this strange sci-fi horror time traveling thriller?
Yeah, so specifically with combat, I know the game has received a lot of criticism online, and I did put it down as a negative. The
Hmm.
pacing of the combat in this game is interesting because it feels like at times you are frantically running around a small environment, being surrounded by enemies or being chased or whatnot, and yet at no point in the game can you really outrun enemies nor for the most part can you, this is maybe people's biggest criticism, like there's no quick turn or anything like that in this
Hmm.
game. So like if you're blindly running away, you really can't tell what's happening behind you as this is happening. And this was a real problem for a lot of people I know. I just found it weird that like you actually couldn't outrun like even the slowest bet. Well, you could somewhat, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in a way that's almost thematic. I mean, let's take a step away from gameplay for a bit, just so folks know what it is we're talking about. So your character is wearing this almost like a diver suit kind of a thing, old school
Sure.
style with like the helmet, the bulky, padding and whatnot. That's got to be hard to move in. Uh,
Sure.
so, I mean, yes, it was clunky, but I think it kind of made sense in a weird sort of way.
I gave
But
them a small pass due to that
mm,
reason that you just said exactly.
mm,
But that small pass is a very small pass because this is getting a little further down the line. Like, we
Mhm.
don't really know what's in the suit, so that's
That
another problem as far as like believing how fast this person can run. So,
that is true, especially when you see what another a person or inhabitant, shall we say, of these suits is capable of doing later on in the game. So I get that is a fair point because there is one that can move significantly better than we can.
yeah,
Um, yeah. But yeah, before we go too much more into the gameplay, I do feel like talking a bit about the setting, what it is we're doing, and like not necessarily the presentation, but just sort of the overall setup might be useful. So
yeah,
it's which is tricky because even by the end of the game, I'm not 100% sure what the story was. But you play, as I said, as this character in like a sort of futuristic-ish diving suit kind of a thing that has been, well, you're sort of birthed out of a pod or like a container, and you have a mission to secure the memories or the essences, they call them, of people who were around during a horrible disease outbreak in 1981's Poland for uh, reasons. It's never it's never really clear, especially not at the beginning. But you are an agent of something called the Collective. They've given you these people to track down. There is time travel involved to go back and get them before they've succumbed to this horrible mutating, like body fusing disease.
yeah.
Um, and that's kind of the setup. So when we say that there's enemies everywhere, they are sometimes literally coming out of the walls. When we say that it's hard to outrun them, it's because, well, some of the passages are overgrown with organic material or things like that. So that's just kind of an idea of the setting you're stepping into with this game. Um, and in terms of, let's see. So in terms of that, and the way they utilize the setting to either scare you or to surprise you, do you think it was effective in terms of like just set pieces and whatnot?
Um, yes. Oddly, I think the scariest quality to the game is actually not the environment itself, nor the enemies, but we can jump on to that in a second here, unless we want me to touch on that now. It doesn't matter, whatever we want me to do this in.
Either way,
I'll just highlight these points as we go through. But
sure.
yeah, I mean it's a creepy atmosphere. It literally looks like, and we had some joking comments in our chat where I was like, Justin, why does the floor have teeth? And there's parts where the
Mhm.
wall has
Teeth.
teeth-ish, and then the ceiling is dripping goo, and yes, it's very overrun with biomass in many of the areas, which
Mhm.
looks gross. I mean,
Yeah.
looks super gross. It's if you're somebody who's like squeamish of squishy stuff, this is not going to be a good game for you to probably play. But in terms of like
Mhm.
just setting up the land, I thought it actually looked pretty awesome. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, I would say the setting, the environment does a pretty good job of being spooky. I mean, great, if you want to go
Mhm.
touch on this too, but it's, various points, great uses of lighting with darkness and shadows, and sound plays an
Yes.
element, which we can talk about more. And yeah, altogether it adds up to a pretty creepy atmosphere.
Yeah. And the sound can be deceptive at times.
Hmm.
Like not really spoiling anything, but there is one section where you're in kind of a not an open area, but a large area, and there you run into something that you can see off in the distance, and before you can get too close, it like tunnels into the floor, and it's like, oh well, shit, I've got that to worry about now. And afterwards, I was kind of like going just between different areas, and I had to head downstairs along this stairway for something. And the entire time, I could hear movement, and I didn't see it. I'm like, "Oh God, this thing's following me, isn't it? It's gonna pop up out of the walls. It's gonna try to grab me. It's gonna, I didn't know what to expect." So I kind of very cautiously went and tried to do what I needed to do. It never showed up. Uh, and I'm like, okay, I don't, I guess I have to go back up. I head back up the stairs, and as I'm going around, I get to a landing, turn a corner. It's not the thing I saw. it's this little crawly thing that it just happened to have popped out of one of the other rooms and it had been trying its best to follow me down the stairs, making noise the entire time. And I'm like, unintentional fake out, but I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, just excellent creepy atmosphere at times.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I would add to that too with just talking about the environment more. There's a lot of the stages, if they don't take place at nighttime, which part of it does, but the sky is usually very dark. The world itself is very dark with dim lighting in various places. I mean, it's very clear that this is depending on which part of the time traveling you're in. I mean, the world is very abandoned. I mean, you can see that there's just signs of like people were here, but they're not here anymore, whether that's in, like food on an apartment table or whether that's a big empty town square that you're walking through or whatever. And then we get these life pods that are all scattered throughout the game, pretty infrequently at first, but definitely increasing and the further the game goes, which we know we kind of crawled out of one of those. So it was like, oh, like this is adding to the lore of what's happening in this place without us actually seeing any of the people that came out of those. We can tell this has been going on a long time. It's a very subtle hint, which was awesome, I thought.
yeah, the environmental storytelling in this is, if you're paying attention, it is fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, because touching on that a bit, there is a very strong, there's a lot of subtext to this. You can tell it was a game that started being made during a pandemic because there's this very everything is quicky, everything is contagious, everything is could kill you, and you can between your character and like one of the NPCs you meet, there's this very strong feeling of like isolation, of just social distancing or what have you. But there are times where there's like a moment of contact, and even though you're wearing this big heavy suit, there's just you can tell in the character's body language that they're not used to that. And it's just very subtle, very, just kind of if you're not paying attention, you'll miss it. But holy crap, is that great environmental storytelling and contextual storytelling because it's not a subtitle saying anything about it. It's just if you notice it, you notice it, and it adds so much.
Yeah.
Um,
Another
so
another aspect of the setting, which I think visually really made this game distinct compared to a lot of other ones I've played, is I think this was highlighted in one of those early trailers too. But since there's like this time travel-y aspect and there's events that have taken place that we don't really fully understand early in the game or in each level, or maybe even at the end of the game. But one of the like visually striking pieces I think on the set is there are often these buildings which are in some frozen state of explosion almost, with pieces just like flying, but totally frozen where they're at while they're flying away from the building. And those I thought like immediately also grabbed my attention because I was like, what happened there? Like, what caused that explosion? Were they attacked or what's the story
yeah,
with that thing right there? I thought that was cool too.
yeah. And, throughout the game, as you're playing, you do sometimes come across they're just referred to as anomalies, where it's just kind of like you'll see bits of ground that are floating in the air, a wall that has collapsed, and there's something nearby with like glowy tendrils of light that indicate, okay, it's connected to that. And if you interact with that thing, it'll like make the wall stand back up, or it'll like change the orientation of the ground, or what have you. So it's implied that something very paranormal, or at least high tech enough that it's not easily understandable. Something like that happened, and it really threw the world itself for a loop. But yeah, the exact nature of it is very ambiguous, at least for a good long while. Possibly, depending on at the ending, you got possibly the entire game. Um,
Yep.
so if you are a player who likes to have answers and likes to make sure that you know what happened by the end, they keep that in mind because you might leave somewhat disappointed. But at the same time, as you're playing, it is very just it grabs your attention. It's intriguing. It's visually, excuse me, visually striking sometimes,
Hmm.
and yeah, just excellent visual style in this, and just graphically, I mean, very well rendered. Like the enemies do look gross and slimy, and like if they hugged you or whatever, that you would catch some sort of incurable disease. Yeah, just yeah, very well presented that way.
You played
Um,
PC, I'm assuming again.
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah, and I played on Switch 2, since you just touched on it. I thought it looked really nice on the Switch 2. There were a few moments where I could see like the layers that were texturing in on top of each other just a bit, like when I'd enter an area.
Hmm.
And then I felt like not going online to compare it to a different system running this game, but it felt like maybe there was a shorter draw distance than there probably
Hmm.
would be on some of the other systems running this as well. Nothing that in any way like inhibited my enjoyment from that aspect alone, I will say. So I thought it was good, and I was just shared with you. Apparently, they have did some kind of patch to upgrade the graphical look on the Switch 2 version 2. I haven't
Uh,
checked to see what that looks like yet. But yeah, that was good. Also
that's
wanted to
great.
mention the since we're kind of already here talking about graphics in a way with the setting and how the game looks. Um, The music in this game is pretty good as well. I mean, a
Hmm.
lot of like soft, haunting tunes here and there. It kind of sets that atmosphere up a little bit for you as well. Some drama just created by the music, I feel like. I did have a problem with, though, and I don't know if you noticed this or not, they had an actual track of background music in the game that includes an enemy groaning. And this drove me nuts because I looked forever for this guy, and I was like, "There's
Hmm.
nobody here." Because there's, I mean, there's, every scary game you play, you're like listening for those audio cues, like, oh, somebody's around the corner, somebody's in this dark room or whatever. And
Hmm.
this one, like, once I realized that it was just a track that was playing that had moaning at this one part, it honestly kind of like then took me out of it, and maybe this is what they're going for. I don't know. It'd be kind of meta stupid if they did, but there were times where I would get attacked because I was like, oh, that's just that musical part playing again, which it might have been in some cases, but I'd just run into the next room then because I didn't hear anything else, and then somebody'd be
Hmm.
in there and they'd attack me, and I'd be like, well, that just feels cheap now, but maybe that's they're
Fair.
trying to do. I don't know.
Well, that's an important thing to build on because this game is it very much plays with your head at times. Your head and your and the character you're controlling, her head as well, in ways that I'm not sure I've really seen since like Eternal Darkness on the GameCube. And if you were a fan of that game, yeah, you'll find a lot to like here as well. Because yeah, there are significant questions at times about whether what you've seen is real, whether it happened in the past, whether you're just going nuts.
Hmm.
And depending on which of the essences of people that you collect, and you can only have a certain number of them stuck in your head or your phylactery, as they call it, at a certain time. Depending on which ones you have, they will sometimes interact with you or with each other or with like things that are happening around, and it's pretty interesting just what they did and how they worked that in to just always give you a sense of uncertainty about what you're going into and whether you're going to actually be in full possession of your faculties when you do it. Fantastic stuff in that sense, I think. Actually, what did you think about like the various essences? Did you feel like they were um, the characters in their own rights? Did you feel like they were just sort of like a gimmick? How did you feel about those?
Well, that's an interesting point because the game, if you play through the plot and follow it closely, the game almost makes you feel like there's a correct three of these you're supposed to collect as the game goes on, but yet you're given choices in some parts of like, do you want to collect this person, or here's a new person, do you want to replace one of your old ones? I do feel like some of them were more prominent than others. I do feel like some of them were characters in their own right, I guess. And I also don't know like the coding behind the game as far as were they actually responding to a situation or a place or a thing that was set up, or was it a random timed event that happened to happen for me at that moment and then I thought it was, but who knows if it actually was or not.
Mm.
Like there are these little orbs that you can click on as you go through the game in some spots, not very often, but some spots where you can get a little bit of background on these characters and you'll hear like a scene from the past specific to that character. But then there's also these moments where there's jump scares and people talking to you and images that pop up and all these other things. And I think you're right on the money with as many times as people have referenced from our generation and have talked about Eternal Darkness. Like it's shocking that more games haven't copied that formula.
Yeah, just when you're not sure if anything going on the screen is actually happening or not. I mean, that is it keeps you it makes you unbalanced in a good way. And yeah, I feel it is a mechanic, at least a presentation choice that a lot more games could use. Um, but yeah, that was it's good to see it back in some way, shape, or form. God, some of those sequences. They led me to die more than once in a couple of them that I won't spoil because they're worth experiencing just on their own.
Hmm.
Um, but let's see. So there's that. We didn't talk about boss fights because those are a hard thing to do right in a horror game. How did you feel about the bosses in general in this? Were they? Do you think they were fun? Do you think they were frustrating? Something
Yeah,
else?
that's a really great question you just asked because I still keep asking myself that question. They were infuriating in the moment. Some of them in particular, and I know you got through, it sounds like some quicker than I did, and maybe there's a couple I might have got through a little quicker than you, but there were
Hmm.
some that I was, I'd message you and be like, I've died 20 times against this boss. Or it's not, some of the quote unquote bosses in this game are even like just a little set piece where it's like, here's 20 guys in this small environment and you got to survive. Like, it's not a true boss, but it's clearly
Hmm.
like a measurable fight that you're going to do in this game.
Hmm.
I will say that when you beat these parts with the boss or whatnot, there was a real sense of accomplishment because
Yes.
it was hard enough that you had died enough times and tried enough strategies that I felt genuinely good when I beat those parts. So for that aspect, I do think, it's a good sign of how you designed your boss battle.
Hmm.
Could I have done with dying a few less times on some of them? Probably, but if you're gonna look at the game as a whole, it really balanced it pretty well, I think. How about you?
Echoing a bit of what you said, there were certainly some of them I liked better than others. There were a few where, in order to have a chance of surviving certain phases of them, you needed to really notice changes in the environment around you. And when you're running, from guys that are coming out of the walls and trying to kill you and trying to shoot them while trying to
Yeah,
avoid the boss itself, you don't always notice that. So there were times where I thought I was doing the right thing, but I I guess I wasn't because I didn't notice that were anomalies that had kind of shown up on the sides of the arena that I was supposed to interact with to actually be able to survive. There were times you played Resident Evil 6, right?
yep,
Okay. Do you remember there's a sequence where I think it's in like a chapel or like a cathedral or something like that, where there's a bunch of actual survivors, and one of them like leans on a candlestick or does something to open up a secret passage, and there's this like blobby thing that kind of comes out and
okay.
starts like farting gas out and turning people into zombies. So there was one, not a direct correlation, but there in fighting this thing, anytime you shot it, it would fart out more gas. And like, oh, I'm supposed to do something else because shooting it is clearly, not a good thing because it's farting out more zombie gas. Nope, turns out you're just supposed to like lay into it without, as much as much ammo as you have until it goes down. But the game doesn't telegraph that. And there were a couple of bosses that reminded me of that fight because I wasn't sure
I can
if what
see
I was
that.
doing, yeah, it was actually hurting the boss itself, or if I was supposed to be looking for something else to, like a switch to pull or something to blow up or what. Um,
Yeah, that's
overall, yeah,
fair.
yeah. Overall, I liked the fights once I realized what I was supposed to be doing, but some of them led me it led me astray at times.
Yeah, I
Um,
could see what you're saying. There were some that you were like, am I making progress
yeah, am
on
I
this
even
fight
hurting this
or not? And
thing?
of course, this is modern gaming where they don't have, like this had been in 1995 earlier, maybe instead of 2025, there probably would have been a health bar up there that you were like, I'm making progress against this thing, but that's not the case here.
Well, there is, I mean, there is sort of a health bar that you get, and partway through the game, you get like a little add-on for your gun that if you point it at an enemy, it'll like glow a certain color, indicating how much health it has.
Oh, it sure
Um,
will. Let's talk about that piece of shit. Let me
so, but
scroll down to my negatives here. Yes. The
um,
sword scan. Yes.
I will say, even with that, sometimes you would just be like, firing shots into into whatever you're fighting, and it wouldn't change color. So I'm like, am I hurting this thing or not?
Oh,
But
okay.
I see where you're going with this. So by all means, ball is in your court.
Yeah, so this game very nicely when you set up with the options has not only one or two, but actually has three colorblind modes, of which I am. I tried all of them just on the graphical screens in the options menu, which had different effects on the screen and you could switch it around. I always have a hard time classifying exactly what colorblind I guess I am, but all three of them looked too jarring to me from how like the real world would look. Like they were all
Hmm,
notably different. I was like, whoa, am I like
hmm.
California raisin? What am I doing here with this one? I don't know what's going on. So I ended up playing with the normal mode, which I like to
Sure.
do in most games anyway, even if they have an option, just because I feel like that's how it's supposed to be, even though I don't always see it that way. Yeah,
Hmm.
but for whatever reason, that thing was the worst thing in the game for me, where it was like I'd scan the enemy and I was like, I don't know, is there a white line? Is there a line? I don't know. So I spent, I would say, the second half of the game walking into a room, seeing a bad guy, immediately trying to stomp its head to see if it'd come to life, and then moving.
Oh God, that had to have made it so much harder because that thing was a lifesaver for me. Because like we've mentioned, there are like things stuck to the walls, and sometimes those things come to life or like come out of the
Yeah,
walls to fight
those
you.
guys got me a lot.
And yeah, pointing for me, it was literally a lifesaver pointing the gun at these various things to see if it lit up. And 99.9% of the time, it worked as intended. There was one though where I would like hold the gun over this one enemy, and it would like flicker back and forth. I don't know if that
Oh,
was a bug or what, but it creeped me the hell out because I'm like, is this thing going to just like lunge at me as I go by? Ammo was scarce enough in this game that I didn't want to like fire a shot at it.
yeah,
I think I just kind of kept as far away from it as I could and managed to sneak by. But intentional or not, that was a very effective scene because it's like, is it going to come to life later? Is it like not fully formed yet, or what? And
yeah,
so, yeah, it only happened once, so I think it was a glitch, but hard to say. Um, but really, that was the only bug I ran into, aside from one item that dropped a little too close to a wall. So I couldn't pick it up unless I was standing in a very, very, very specific spot, and I had to just keep hammering the A button to try to grab it when the game decided I was able to.
yeah. I didn't have a ton of issues either. There was one or two spots where I feel like I had been pushed into a corner by an enemy, or like I was just exploring the edge of the map and I had like a little bit of a glitch getting out of that spot, but I was able to get out both times. Like I never got stuck and had to restart or resave or load or anything like that.
Okay.
So that was good. And I feel like there was something else I was just going to say with that part. Oh, there was also a spot or two where I shot through what was clearly a hole, but it didn't register that it was hitting something. Like I think there was one spot where there's a
Oh.
hole in a wall, and I was shooting one of those wall guys, and he just like
Mhm.
he didn't care. He was just like keep
Oh.
shooting, I don't care. And then there was one other spot where I think I shot through like a shelf at something, like
Mhm.
a metal shelf, and that didn't register either. And actually, now that I think about it, there might have been one item that was on a metal shelf also that I was like, pick
Hmm.
up, pick up, pick up. And
Oh.
like that one thing, just, I don't know if I ended up getting it or not. I couldn't even tell you, but that was a little glitch too. But overall, I mean, it was good.
Okay. Cool. Anything else on gameplay you wanted to touch on?
Ho, ho, ho. Yes, there is.
Oh, go for it then.
All right, so some more positives for me. I don't, how did you feel about the methods of like switching between weapons in the game? I thought it was pretty smooth.
I did too. It was well, sort of,
Mm.
because let's touch on the weapons themselves a bit because you find what like eight different guns throughout the course of the game, give or take.
Yeah,
I
it's a
think.
few by the end. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you find one, it's like, okay, do I want to use this thing or not? And you pick it up and add it to your inventory as long as you have space, and it like auto equips it to one of your. This is on the PC version at least. It might have been different on the Switch, and it auto equips it to one of your four readied weapons.
It was the
Okay,
same, I think.
okay, but the weird thing was if you wanted to unequip it and like get it out of you're like I'm never going to use this thing, so I'll just like store it and forget about it. You needed to get it off of that select wheel and
Oh,
into your regular inventory, and you couldn't do that if it was one you were actively holding. So you couldn't just like say I put that away. You had to switch to a different gun. You had to go to you had to like go to the menu, bring up the wheel, click and drag, I believe it was, or just like click it and get it back into your regular inventory. Then you could put it in the storage. So that was really clunky, I thought.
Okay, so that was actually worse on the PC. So glad to hear that it goes the other way sometimes.
Mhm.
No, if you had the currently equipped gun, as in the one you were actually wielding, that
Mhm.
one you couldn't stash in the box until you took it off of your hand, essentially. But
Okay.
I didn't have any of the other stuff you're talking about.
Okay, that's good. I mean, in combat and whatnot, switching was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very smooth. The gun itself would like morph to be whatever it is you were
Hmm.
currently, switching to, which is kind of neat. I think even when you were punching, it would like change into like, some sort of brass knuckly thing where, it was a visual representation of the fact that you were, laying into something and then it would form back into the guns.
Well, let me.
Um,
Sorry, you're still talking about weapons. Go ahead.
no, no, it's fine. Just I liked that touch is all I was going to say. But go
Well,
on.
that directly leads me to a criticism people had with the game, and I want to tie a positive to a potential negative here and get your take on this. But
Mhm.
there are a lot of people online, actually, I was on Reddit earlier today, complaining and telling people don't even play this game because the inventory system is so bad. It's so small, and your key items have to be in there, and they take up spots, and blah blah blah. But their bigger valid, I will say, maybe
Mhm.
criticism is the weapons all take up a spot. Fine. But on the
Mhm.
Traveler, the weapons are all morphing into the hand. So why does each weapon take up a different spot in the inventory? They compared it to if you put a
Ah.
Swiss Army knife in a kitchen drawer and you'd be like, oh, can't put the whole thing in there because already three blades or whatever. Which I think
Huh.
is a criticism you could look at. I personally didn't really have a problem with the inventory. There were maybe, as I was telling the people on Reddit, maybe two or three spots I can think of where I found a room that had so many items that I had to like backtrack a couple times to get them all to the safe box. Which I
Mhm.
don't think we mentioned really. This game has like the traditional Resident Evil safe rooms with your
Yeah.
safe boxes for items,
Mhm.
which are actually tangent kind of sweet rooms. There's like an upgrade depot, and there's usually
Mhm.
a upgrade you can get in there itself, and some other things you can sell, you can buy, you can do some things there, which
Yeah.
is pretty cool. But
Yeah. And you didn't have to worry about like ink ribbons or whatever. You could save as many times as you wanted.
not if you want a good score.
I mean, there is that, but we'll get to that. Or we can talk about it now if you'd prefer.
It doesn't
Um,
matter. Go for it.
sure. In a way, I'm kind of glad to see horror games getting back to like kind of gauging your progress when you beat them. Like I haven't seen this really since like the PS2 era, at least not consistently. Where Resident Evil, I mean Silent Hill 2 would be like, oh, you ran for this many kilometers and you walked for this many and you killed this many enemies with ranged weapons versus close up ones or whatever. You saved this many times, and it would like break down just kind of like your performance if you were really trying to chase a you know trying to streamline and get better at the game. You could be like, okay, maybe I don't want to save as often now that I know what's happening, and that would sometimes affect the endings. I'm not sure if it affects the endings here, but you get an ending, the type of ending you get, and a rating. And I don't really know how much the rating really affects things aside from bragging rights. Um, so I will say it's a solid game in terms of length for a horror title. Like I think by the end of it, with some backtracking and some failing against bosses, I think I spent around 20 hours from beginning to end on this. So it's a good solid adventure. But it
Yeah,
also tracks how long it took too. So
yeah. I don't know how long mine was. I didn't actually look at that, but it's a good question. I don't know
yeah,
is
the
the
game
answer.
does. Yeah,
I
the
you
game
know
does
I
have multiple endings. Yeah.
I mentioned to you though, like to me, it's annoying. I don't
Mhm.
know. I'm against your saves counting against you. I always have been since like the first Resident Evil games.
Mhm.
And it's half okay, half of his skill, I get that, but my other half is like I was saying to you in our chat, if I encounter this really tough section of the game, and I might go out there with the shotgun and the handgun and give it a shot with the fuel tank that I'm going to use. Okay, that didn't work. I'm going to go back, switch to the rifle and some other weapon that I'm going to use a landmine this time. And I'm going to
Mhm.
resave so that if this dies, I'm going to go out and try it again with that once or twice to see if that combo works. Like, I shouldn't be penalized for saving because it's just a matter of I don't want to spend another 4 minutes to upgrade or update my inventory. So, yes, I'm going to save. And if that lowers my rating,
I agree with you. As a kid, I probably wouldn't have minded as much, but I mean, we're adults now. We've got responsibilities and jobs, and our time isn't as free
I never
as it used
understood
to
why
be.
saving is considered one of the like badges of honor. Like, all right, tell me how many times I died. Okay, I'll take that. Then
Mhm.
find some other criteria. How many headshots did you get? How
Mm.
many, enemies did you knock down while they were running? Like, find some other ways
Yeah,
to measure. How many times did you have to fight the boss before you beat the boss? There's a good
yeah,
one. How about
yeah,
that?
yeah. No, I agree. Like the number of saves, it's like it's just bragging rights. That's really what it boils down to, and it's I don't know. That's
Even as a
I.
teenager, I was never somebody who'd be like, I'm going to try to go for the God run this time and get it with one save or whatever. Like, no, because if I died then, I would have put the controller through the screen of the TV at that point.
Yeah, I mean, some people are all about the stats.
I know they are. It's crazy.
The ones who beat Dark Souls with a dance pad or like somehow wired a banana into a
Wait, you didn't
controller or
play this game
something.
with a dance pad?
I
Oh,
guarantee
man.
someone out there will if they haven't already.
That's probably true. Let's see. I got some more here.
Sure.
For positives on gameplay, I generally always thought combat in this game was tense, which is a
Yeah.
high compliment to them. Like there was a time or two where it was me and one of the base creatures are called orphans in this game. There'd
Mhm.
be some times where it was me and one orphan. If like and I stopped taking that one enemy seriously, they would like somehow get around in the room and get too close to me, and I'd be like, check, 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 and they'd kill me. Because even souped up in this game, you don't take too many hits before you die.
Yeah.
So I kind of liked that even late in the game, if I was just screwing around and not paying attention, like they were still lethal, even though they were the little minions.
Yeah.
So I thought
Yeah.
combat was always good.
Agreed. Yeah, it was, and it's testament to the idea that you can have a horror game where you can fight back and have it still be scary and still be tense. Because I have always hated the idea that, well, it's only true horror if you can only run and hide and you have no way of defending yourself. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's true. You can have a very effective horror experience where if you're going into a room and you see like an enemy that hasn't noticed you yet, it's like do I have the ammo to fight this thing, or do I need to try to like find another way around? I mean, there's that tension, there's that trade-off of resources that you need to consider, and it's like if I kill this, will I have enough, resources to fight what's next? I mean, that can be terrifying sometimes, and this game does that. It pulls it off magnificently.
Yes.
Like honestly, this is some of the best combat in a horror game I've played in a while. Just because it I agree with you. It does always feel tense. It always feels meaningful. Like you can't take any encounter lightly because it'll come back to bite you.
Did you, it's not on my notes here, but I just thought of this. Did you have many sections where you chose to not kill a bad guy? Just like run through?
There were a couple, simply, ones where I was like, I've got one shotgun shell and three bullets left, and I know if I can distract these guys by blowing up this thing in the corner to get them on fire, it won't kill them, but it'll give me a chance to like shove this filing cabinet out of the way and sneak through,
Yeah,
and
sure.
they hopefully won't be able to follow me. I'm not going to tell you whether they are or not because that's something dear listeners, you should experience on your own. But yeah, there were a couple of times where it's just like I don't have the resources to take these guys on. I'm just gonna try to book it and like maybe shoot one in the leg to slow it down and just try to get to an area where there's a door between me and them.
Yeah.
So there weren't a ton of those situations, but they were there, and it is a risk reward kind of a thing.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
God,
well, it kind of ties me to a couple points here too, which is I don't even
mhm,
know if we mentioned, but like the basic main mechanic for the
mhm.
enemies in this game is that they if you kill somebody and you don't burn the body, the next one comes along and basically, for lack of a better term, like sucks up the body and then mutates into a stronger version of what they currently are,
Yep.
which occasionally, like I mentioned to you, there was one spot in the Steelworks level where I had two that had mutated so many times, like I can't kill these guys. I didn't have enough weapons to kill them. I could use
Yep.
everything I had, but I couldn't even find a spot to kill them without them killing me because they were so strong. There was nowhere to use the environment that I could find, so I had to
Yeah.
eventually just let those two, for example, go because
Right. Yeah. It is a game that really it forces you, and it's not easy to burn a body in this. Like you have, like your bullets are limited, but you want to talk about anything you can use to torch a corpse. Oh,
yeah,
you're pretty much like a beggar for the entire. the entirety of this game trying to find enough fuel to like set these things on fire. And there are some you'll have to leave behind and hope that, enemies don't spawn behind you and decide to like slurp them up.
Yep.
Because, oh,
Or God forbid you find a spot very far from a save room where it looks like there's a burnable wall, and now you really have a dilemma. Do I waste the fuel on the burnable wall, but be at the mercy of any enemies that are in this area, or do I save it because I can hear something coming around the corner?
yep. Oh yeah, just the situations this game puts you in are just fantastic in terms of generating tension, because you're never quite sure how well equipped you're going to be from point A to point B, and oh, it's just fantastic the way they set some of this up.
Yeah, agreed. I still have more positives here,
Sure.
which is, tipping my hand a little bit that there was a lot I did enjoy about the game.
Mhm.
I commented to you, I feel like the item drops in this game, while at times I was very angry because I'd find two barrels, smash them, and there would be nothing. Or lo and behold, you get energy on everything instead of bullets, and I'm like, come on. But
Energy is like the currency
the
in this game
currency,
for
yeah,
those
because
listening. Yeah, yeah.
there was so many points where, like you said, I'd be down to, one handgun bullet, two shotgun bullets, and maybe a fuel if I was lucky. But fuel, at least you could replenish if you could get far enough back to replenish it. But the
Mhm.
bullets, like you could buy a few, but for the most part, if you buy, there was always a trade-off too, because if you bought things in this game, it came at the expense of upgrading things.
Yep.
So it's like you can't suck enough that you need to buy stuff because then you'll never be able to actually be stronger in this game.
Yep. And there
But
is crafting, so you could make bullets here and there, but the crafting
yes.
materials were also pretty scarce. So
hmm
yeah.
But I
Ooh.
thought the actual drops in the game, as much as they frustrated me at points, I thought it was damn near perfect because every time I'd be down to nothing, I'd be like, Justin, I am screwed. I'm never going to get past this part. And
Yes.
then I'd run through it again the next time and I'd get through with like a bullet or two and, like severely limping because I'm almost dead. And then I'd make it to like a save room with a couple replenishing supplies. And oh,
Uh,
it was so well balanced that way. It's pretty crazy.
yeah, yeah. Kudos to the developers for making it so you never really felt like even like situations where it's like all of a sudden you have sufficient ammo, you're like, oh no, something big is right around the corner, isn't it? And yep, sure enough, something big was right around the corner, and then you're back to,
Yeah.
just a shotgun shell and, your fists or whatever, Yeah, I agree. Fantastic parsing out of supplies in this.
More positives for me. I know you mentioned already, like using, I don't even know what the tool, the hammer. No, what was the gravity spike? No, what was the thing called that you actually used on the anomalies? Was that?
Oh, you get it so early, I forgot what it was
Yeah, I
called, but
forgot
it's
what it's
like it's
called
like this
too.
it's like a beam that you can shoot out of your gun that changes the state of the anomalies.
I thought the anomalies were a really cool part to the game, just like how you can manipulate the environment and change it to be accessible suddenly or whatever the case was. I have
Mhm.
this as a positive, but if they ever did a sequel to this game, I would want them to also find ways to use the anomalies to maybe make a branching path. Like you can do this or this, and then like it goes
Hmm.
away. You know what I mean? Because everything was always like, you need to go here, so do the anomaly.
Yeah.
With a
It
couple
reminded
tricky little spots, but
Yeah, some of the anomaly stuff reminded me of an old like Xbox 360, PS3 era game called Singularity,
okay.
which was all about also manipulating time basically to like repair a collapsed bridge or to like age somebody until they died or
Oh
whatever. I mean, you,
wow.
you could, yeah. It reminded me a bit of that. Although that game obviously used it a lot more if, uh, consistently throughout the story. But yeah, definitely definite shades of that.
Okay. We have not mentioned there were sections later, specifically in the second half of the game, where you suddenly had access to using gravity boots, which were awesome, flying around
Yes.
from little, whatever you would call it,
They were like
magnetic floor to other floor. I don't know, but that was awesome.
yeah, yeah. I got so disoriented, but it was a neat effect.
Because it's spinning you. Not
Yep.
just whatever you want to say, like three-dimensionally spinning you, not just horizontally or vertically or whatnot.
Yep. Yeah, it's like, oh, there's a platform above me, but it's
Floating on this
facing.
random chunk that's up here.
Yep, but it's not facing like the same orientation I am. It's facing what would be to my left. So I jump to it and like my feet, spin in the air until I'm standing where down is now right because my head is facing left. And yeah, I'm sure there are
Also,
things I missed because I was so disoriented in some of those
how
sections.
also great was it that they were able to, for the most part, design those sections in the second half of the game where once you flew to that second platform, you
Mhm.
really couldn't see the first platform to fly back. Like, I was
Yes.
worried very quickly that I was going to not know where to go once I started jumping when I could see there's like 20 of these things in this section. But that wasn't the case. It was always like 1 degree past where you couldn't see that old one anymore, and then it was like,
Yeah.
okay, here's the new choice I could go to.
And if you really had your eyes open, you might see one off in the distance that's kind of like behind other stuff. And, hey, that might be a secret area where you can get some more supplies to not die so easily and whatnot.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah, just those were really neat. And again, it's a nod towards just how weird this setting is because, like I said, most of it's like post-apocalyptic, disease-ridden Poland, but the other travelers is what your character is called. The other ones that came and tried to like save people, save heavy air quotes on that people before you laid some of this foundation so that those who come after can, then have an easier time of getting around. And it's just an iterative world building that is really neat, I think.
I think it's best not to ask how some of those gravity platforms were built by the previous travelers, because that didn't really make sense to me. But like, I
Mhm.
don't know how he got
Right.
up to that rock to begin with to build that platform and how he got the supplies up there, but it looks pretty darn cool. And also led to one of the really more memorable boss fights in the game as well, using that gravity power.
Oh God, that was frantic.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was, and also one of those fights where I'm like, am I actually hurting this guy or not?
Yeah.
So, but, yeah, that one was one of the more creative, just set pieces because you had to use like everything at your disposal to get through that fight, and it was really cool. Um, anything else on your list that you wanted to touch on before we?
Yes.
Okay, go for
Also,
it.
you just mentioned this, but just to kind of reiterate, I did like initially I was upset, but I did like that even though you basically will get to every point of interest going through the game, there was an area where we both missed something, it sounds like. And actually, in retrospect, thought about that, and I liked that. Like I
Hmm.
should have looked around a little bit more, and it was there for me to find. I just didn't find it, and I appreciate that.
Mhm. Sure. Yeah, and there are certainly choices you have to make. And sometimes making a certain choice at least seems like in the context of everything around you, it will have very dire consequences for you and possibly for the story going forward.
Hmm.
And there was at least one of those that I didn't make because I'm like, I don't have the bullets in case what I think is going to happen happens. So, but yeah, it is very good at making you second guess yourself. Like, can I
Yes.
handle what's in front of me, or should I just cut my losses? And it's been a while since I played a game that was like that.
Well, I mean, and not even just in those moments, but the game has actual decisions that it gives you
Yeah.
as well, which again, I don't know fully how much it impacted the story or the ending or anything, but the fact that they at least made you pause and be like, how do you want to answer this person or what do you want to do in this situation?
Hmm.
It was a good break for this kind of hellish landscape you're fighting through, and then all of a sudden they're like, do you want to save this person or let them go? And you're like, oh, do I? I
Right.
don't know.
Yeah, yeah. And again, the story itself is very anomalous at times, but the beats that you get during this whole mysterious setup they can feel very human, very well set up, very meaningful, even if you don't quite have a feel for exactly what it is you're doing or where you're heading. There are times where it's like, okay, this choice seems very it's easy to parse. It's very relatable. And I agree, those were kind of breaths of fresh air where it's like, okay, the rest of this is kind of overwhelming, but here this makes sense.
Yeah.
And just very nice balance of that sort of thing, I think.
Also liked, I haven't done it, and I'm tipping myself here a bit by obviously saying I do enjoy the game, and I will play it again at some point. Which is that it has this new game plus mode, which I gather you get some of the stuff from your previous run,
Mhm.
but there's another ending you can get by playing the game through this way, it sounds like. And I just like that the option's there. Most games that have New Game Plus, I probably don't go back and play. This is one I
Mhm.
probably will at some point. I don't know when, but I would go back and play it again just to see what that is like for sure. So,
Mhm. Agreed wholeheartedly. And there have been horror games I've done that for, but I don't think they quite offered as much in terms of unexplored content as this one does.
mm,
Because there were definitely things I missed, definitely choices I didn't make.
yeah.
So yeah, just the fact that they set it up to be at least somewhat of a fresh experience the next time you go around, that's admirable. Because a lot of games, it's like, oh, new game plus, you're just playing through the same story again, except it's
Right.
harder, and that can be fine. That can be fun. But it's at the same time, it's not offering really anything new. This one does genuinely seem to offer a different perspective if you played through it again and did different choices.
I mean, even yeah, knowing how the game ultimately ends, regardless of what ending you got, like it might make you
Mhm.
view some parts of the game earlier differently as well.
Definitely.
So I don't know, it'd be cool. Did you also enjoy that upgrades were purchasable by two different forms of currencies in this game? I thought that was really smart.
Yes, yeah, because there's the energy we talked about, and but there are also cores you can find, and cores are like they're like the big ticket items, where you can use them for certain sizable upgrades to your suit and whatnot. But the energy is used for more for like your guns to improve them and make them more usable. But you might also be referring to like the valuable items that you can find.
We can talk about those too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you're going, and these also take up inventory space, so it's a gamble of whether you want to pick one up and then not have room for bullets or whatever.
Yeah.
So another trade-off. But you can trade those in a safe room for more energy, which you can use for more upgrades. But it's getting them to their endpoint that is the tricky part sometimes. And oh boy, is it tricky sometimes.
Well, I actually have the valuables that you find as one of my negatives for gameplay,
Oh.
which is they designed this wonderful game where time traveling, but they only took the time to like come up with like five items that you could go through on all these stages. It was like, do you want a portable radio? How about a portable radio? You want a video game
Well,
system? Do you see what we did there? Wink, wink.
whatever you do, don't steal a fat man's camera.
Yeah, right.
I'm not going to say more than that, but oh, it did not end well. Uh,
That's a minor quibble, but I was like, come on, another one of these things. Let's just get this over
that's
here.
that's fair. But it was also like 1980s Poland that was flirting with the idea of socialism, and thus, expensive items probably weren't very common. So, I mean, thematically, it kind of makes sense, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's yeah, we could do a whole like other tangent about the whole socialism and people literally melding into one another kind of message that's going on here. So, but yeah, let's just say there's a lot of subtext in this
There
game,
is,
and
yes, there
yeah.
is. As we were playing this, I told Justin I was convinced this was about the Holocaust many, many times over, but I'm less
Mhm.
convinced now that it has ended. But we will. I think there's still some parallels you could pick up there. But anyway,
Mhm.
I also enjoyed that the game really manipulated what your expectations were going to be in some of the parts. Just specifically referencing here, there were a couple giant killing fields that you walked into where I was like, this is going to be terrible. And you do fight a fair number of creatures there, but it's never as bad as I thought it was going to be walking into that giant area. So
Mhm.
subverting expectations by actually having less happen than I thought.
Mhm.
And then the other one I wanted to mention as well, and you commented on this one as we were
Mhm.
playing through, is there's a couple spots where there are a lot of, for lack of better words, shell-shocked enemies who don't attack you.
Yeah.
And those were genuinely quite creepy as well.
Yep, it's like if I bump into this thing, is it going to flip out or
What's going to activate these guys? Or
exactly.
are they going to
Yeah.
be activated? Or,
Yeah, or are they just a set piece? But it's a matter of, I mean, they're clearly alive because my indicator shows like a color when I point my gun at them.
oh, that's
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. It's like, are they going to just all snap to attention at once as soon as they get to a certain point? Or yeah, just very, very tense sections on that.
Also,
It's
a
just like, oh,
really good scene that like humanized them as, people who had mutated because you saw some of them like sitting on a cot and like just shaking their head rapidly, and you were like, "Ooh, this is like a not far gone person who is dealing with
yeah,
this." Some of that was really kind of hard to watch for a different reason, just thinking
yeah.
about that.
And again, not spoiling anything, but with the environmental storytelling, I've seen a few like Reddit posts and whatnot of people with screenshots of things I don't think I noticed,
Oh
like
wow.
certain corpses and whatnot in certain states of being, shall we say. And it's like, oh yeah, that tells the story. So yeah, there's just there are moments that make you realize that you're not just wading through, the just faceless, mindless creatures, but these used to be people, and
Yeah.
some of them kind of sort of still are.
I
And
do have, oh, sorry, go ahead.
can we talk about their eyes for a second?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Creepiest fucking thing in the game because they have like animal type eye shine. If you have your
Oh.
flashlight on and you're going through a corridor with things on the walls that are just sort of hanging there, yeah, their eyes will glow,
Oh,
just
okay.
reflecting the light, and it is unnerving. Very, very excellent and yet understated visual effect. I just wanted to point that out. It's just so cool.
Yeah, that's good. I do have a couple negatives on gameplay too, if I'm going to share those
Go for
also.
it. Yeah.
So I liked the anomalies that we play around with. I liked the gravity boots we play around with. I had a little bit more of a mixed experience with the electrical bolts option we had later in the game. I don't
Ooh.
know if it was because we only got it so late in the game, but it seemed like a power that really was tacked on to be like, here's an extra power that you can have for the last bit of the game.
Yes. And I learned by accident, you can use those to like break boxes and blow things, I think blow things up at a distance without using ammo. So if there was like in certain tense fights where there's crates and you don't want to like run up to them and then take the time to stomp them or whatever, you could just
Okay.
like point and fire off a couple of those. They'd break. You could just run over and grab whatever falls out. Again, learned that by accident, but pro tip, you're low on ammo, just fire a couple of those at whatever you think might be breakable, and it'll save you some heartache.
I'm trying to think. Did they do damage also? I swear I killed a guy with those ones.
Did you? Oh
I
man.
I don't know. I thought I might have just like pumped him full of like 6 or 7 of those things. I mean,
Maybe
I'm not positive. I wouldn't bet on it, but I thought that happened. I don't know.
huh.
Um,
I do agree with you that the puzzles that involved them were kind of cumbersome at times.
yeah, they were
Yeah.
fine. I just felt like I don't know. Maybe if they had even introduced that early in the game as like an option we were doing also,
Hmm.
then it wouldn't have felt so tacked on at the end of the game because it really felt like we got to give you something new here for this last bit of stretch of the game. So now you're
Hmm.
going to control electricity also.
Yeah.
Did you think there were enough enemy varieties?
Actually, yeah. Because there were, let's see, standard ones.
I made a li I wrote on my notes, I think there were 5 or 6, but then I made a list and I think
There's more than
8. I
that.
think there's
Yeah.
8 on my list, but I don't know if that's all of them or not.
Well, let's
I don't know
see.
if we want to say them out loud or not, but there's the standard dude. There's like,
The headless ones.
oh, I forgot about the runners.
Yep, yep,
Yep.
because they run at you. There's the
Yep.
exploders, the spitters, the armored ones, the fat dudes, the ones on the walls. 7.
The ones
I
that
feel.
climb on the ceilings.
Oh God, those fucking things.
And
Yes, so that's
then
8.
there's also like the bugs and then the wallflower things too,
Oh,
which
yep, yep. So there's
so
like 9 or
I
10.
guess
Yeah,
there is more.
yeah.
I think maybe just because like 85% of what you encounter is the standard one, but I wouldn't want
Yeah.
it to be some of the other ones, but yeah, maybe there is
Yeah.
enough then. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, every time it felt like, okay, it's just more of these guys, then they'd throw like another one into the mix to shake things up, and it's like,
Yeah,
oh
that's a
shit, now
good
I've got,
point.
yeah.
It was right about when you were like, all right, I got this covered too. And then they'd introduce something new and you're like, God damn it.
It's like, oh, that one's on the ceiling, fucker. Yep.
The last couple criticisms on gameplay here. One, and I don't know if we know the answer to this fully, but I'm not sure if my decisions mattered or not in the game as much as I liked that they were there. I don't know that well, we know that the essences mattered because they give you a
Hmm,
different gameplay bonus,
true.
which I don't know if we said that or not either, because you had some
Mhm.
cushy thing with headshots, you bastard.
Yes, I did, and oh, that was nice.
Whereas I picked the
Um,
brother that gave me extra damage if I'm shooting multiple people with a shotgun. And I'm like, oh my God.
I mean, there were definitely times where that would come in handy, but
There
not as many
were
as the headshots.
was almost like incentivizing me not killing a guy when I'd see him though, because I'd be like, is there another guy that's gonna pop out? Let's just keep running around.
Nice. Um, Yeah, I was partial to the one that would let you do more damage with carbide weapons if you're staying still, where it's
Mm,
just like, okay, I can actually take out some of these things with one shot instead of wasting ammo. I was very ammo
yeah.
conscious in this game.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so there was a lot to tailor your play style between the guns themselves
Yeah,
and
that's
like the
true.
bonuses you can get. So I respect just that. Because there were guns I never used, but I might on another playthrough to see how they change the the gameplay. Um, there was one there was one essence I picked up at the end that was corrupted just because I'm like, maybe this affects the ending. Um,
Oh.
it turns out I'm not sure if it did, but after the fact, I had written down just like part of like the garbled text. It was hexadecimal, and I put it through a hex to plain text translator, and it gave me its name. So I'm thinking what it does is also like written out, but written in hexadecimal, just made to look garbled. So I think it did
Whoa.
something, but I don't know what it did.
That's
Its name,
cool. Okay.
yeah,
I was gonna ask because I think somebody on one of those Reddit boards also was like, I got somebody that was like just code or something, and they were like, blah, blah, and I was like, I don't think who was, well, you don't have to say, but I don't know
yeah.
if I saw the person who was code. That's interesting. Wow.
It was really towards the end.
Okay.
In Yeah, I don't want to say where I
Yeah,
found
yeah,
it, but
yeah.
it was
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, it was just
That's
one of
cool. Yeah, but
those.
there were a lot of
Yeah.
options. That's what somebody else was complaining too. They with the inventory, they were like, you couldn't even carry all the guns, and I was like, yeah, but you could carry two and all of the ammo for it pretty easily. And then
Mhm.
when I was like, when you run out of one, go back and pick a different one up, and then see
Right,
how many bullets you got for that at that point. They kind
right.
of forced you to like use the different guns, which I actually appreciated.
Same, yeah. It's like I didn't expect to use the lance, the javelin, I think it's called, which was very low damage,
Yes.
but at the same time, I'm like, well, maybe I can use this to take care of like the weakest enemies, like the ones that explode after you hit them once or twice. And it's like, sure enough, that saved ammo.
Yeah.
So and it's not. I only tried using it because I kept finding ammo for it, and I was low on the other stuff. So I'm like, okay,
Right.
I'll give this a try, and lo and behold, I kept it with me until the end.
Which
So
again, I was like, is this game actually smart enough to be manipulating the inventory drops, the item drops to make me try that gun? I don't know, but
possibly
it
though,
did. I don't know.
yeah,
Um, so I have two questions left for you on this gameplay section, Justin.
sure, go for
Why do we have charge shots if the best shot is always a charge shot?
it. Ah,
Anytime I shot that
because
wasn't a charge shot, I was pissed off that I accidentally slipped and didn't do the charge shot.
that was almost my experience. Aside from when something was really on my ass, and I just needed to fire off a couple of shots to stagger it. I
Hmm.
wasted it. It felt like wasting ammo because it wasn't doing as much
Yeah.
damage, but it got me some breathing room, and it was only a couple of times. But oh my God, was it necessary sometimes? But yeah, in general, the charge shots were always better. Aside from the guns that didn't have them, which I didn't experiment with much, but there's like a double-barreled shotgun that's only just
Okay.
the shot.
I thought that
Which
was a
I'm
little
like,
weird though. So
yeah.
for listeners, it's like you hold one button. Why don't you do it on the PC? But you hold something for a couple
Mhm.
seconds and then it builds up and then you shoot. But that's
Yep.
like, but it becomes the standard shot because you're like, I'm not attacking any of these enemies without the strongest shot that I can because everything is so scarce.
Yes. Yeah, because if you're just using like the standard pistol, shot, it's you're really selling yourself short unless you have no other option and this thing is right in your face, in which case it might buy you enough breathing room to get back and actually do what you're supposed to be doing with the gun.
To its
Um,
credit, the standard handgun might have been my favorite handgun or favorite gun. I'm not sure.
it was up there. I mean, it
Yeah.
hasn't been since like the original Half-Life that I've appreciated the starting pistol as much as I did in this game.
Yeah.
But yeah, very, very solid gun.
Well, one last question for you here.
Sure.
Why let us use the flashlight to translate Polish words if you're not going to let us use the flashlight to translate more Polish words.
It was very spotty with what it decided to let us poor
Yes.
uncultured English speakers
When
know.
it started, I was like, "Oh, this is awesome! I can just like see what all these things are." And like major signage, I would say was, but there were some areas where even the major signage didn't translate, and I was like trying to move closer
Yeah.
and manipulate my flashlight.
Yeah,
No,
because the game, I mean, the spoken dialogue, if you choose English, it's in English, but all of like the written text in the environment is Polish for those of you listening at home. Like notes you pick up will be in English because that would just be obnoxious to not have them like that. But you'll see like a building with a whole bunch of letters that you're not familiar with, and you point your reticle at it, and it'll say like storeroom or something like that most of the time.
yeah,
Um, yeah, there were a couple of times where it's just like I am going to a place. I'm not sure where I'm going, but
yeah.
here I am.
Or
Yeah,
a couple tiny instances where they were like, "Go find the blank blank," and you're looking around at these signs like none of the like in the hospital stage, and you're like, "None of these
uh,
are telling me where I'm supposed to be going right
yeah,
now."
yeah. So I mean, I'm not sure if that was an oversight or what, but when it worked, it was cool. But there were times I was like, okay, I'm here now. This kind of looks like a pharmacy or whatever. It
Yeah.
doesn't tell me that's what it is, but I'm going based on environmental cues.
I just thought it
So
was a nice touch. Like they could have added
yeah.
more into the game. It would have kind of immersed me a little bit more to
Mhm.
see the Polish lettering and then see what it
Yeah.
meant in English. Like it was a nice, maybe into
Yeah.
the world a little bit more.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, it definitely cemented the feel of the setting, I will say.
Yes, agreed. Well, that's all I
Yeah.
have for gameplay finally.
Okay, gotcha. How much do we want to say about the story, considering how obtuse it can be at times?
Well, maybe I don't know if we need to say everything, but
Mhm.
I think you've already hinted at we both probably really enjoyed the story in general,
Yeah.
despite not fully understanding exactly
Yeah.
what's happening. Or maybe we do. I don't know. Maybe we do understand what's happening. I don't know. The people online seem to not
I
be confused at all. They're just like, this is
Oh,
it. And I'm like,
huh. Well, that must be nice.
yeah,
But yeah, I like by the end of it, I wasn't sure if we were the good guys, and I liked that element of things. I'm not sure exactly who or what we were working for, or if they had the best intentions for these people in mind. I didn't know what their end goal was, aside from, I guess, just preserving the knowledge. But why to some people and not others then? Because it's like, are they trying to cure the disease? Are they trying
yeah.
or are they just trying to uh, preserve information into posterity for their own reasons. It was like, did they know what caused the disease? At times it seemed like it, but other times it was like it just happened, and we're just trying to do our jobs around it, and we're not entirely sure either. Did we cause it? Was it something else? Was it? Yeah,
Yeah.
there are a lot of unanswered questions in this.
Absolutely. There's a nice well, first, with just kind of how our character, the Traveler, is presented, it does
Mhm,
kind of make sense because it seems to be like a pretty standard sci-fi trope of like you are this person who wakes up in some year in the future from when you went to sleep or were, put in hibernation mode or whatever the case is, because again, we don't really know what these things are that we are.
mhm.
But it's like you wake up and you don't know the world around you anymore because it's changed. You don't really know who you are. You're just some serial number traveler who kind of know who you work for, but really you're
Sort
just
of.
like a drone who's been trained in the company line before you went to sleep.
Yeah.
So there's all that. And then, yeah, you kind of touched on like the fun paradox of the story, which I mean, it's a minor spoiler, but not too big a spoiler. The whole thing is, the travelers have been going back in time to try to fix things and save humanity and all these things, or are they making it worse every time they time travel? And like that was a really fun aspect of it too, I thought.
Right. Yeah. Like it's a fascinating world they built up. And I wish I had a better feel for some of the answers, but at the same time, I'm not upset at how ambiguous so much of it is because
Yeah.
it's a game that makes you think. And I think some of it is just drawing your own conclusions. I don't think either of us got to the secret, well, quote unquote secret ending, but like the
Yeah.
the true ending, which maybe that clears things up. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, you kind of just try to piece together this world as you go, and some of the pieces fall into place in ways that are really unsettling, especially when it comes to you yourself as a character. And I don't want to say more than that because it's a pretty good reveal, I think.
I
And it
did think, yeah,
touches,
go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
Keep going. No.
And it touches on some really powerful and at least interesting themes of I mentioned the whole like socialism and collectivism and like everybody, being part of a whole versus individualism. There's a major conflict that develops between those two ideals
Yeah,
as the story goes on. And in terms of like, even with the essences you're collecting, they're sort of like becoming part of your mind and yet not. And you have to like pick and choose which ones to keep. And the ones you let go seem like they're gone
they're
forever. And
gone.
it's
Yeah,
just,
forever. Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot to unpack. And it's very, very interesting. And just in terms of like how it's presented. You were about to say something though.
I'm just thinking, this is kind of my own meta commentary here, but the system with the collective seems to be that they essentially wake up one traveler at a time. And so when you find these like depots or even the gravity shoe areas, it's the person before you supposedly who like helped build that for the people that would come after them in case they should fail in their mission or whatnot. And so what theoretically, in my head at least, would have happened over time is you continually get into this state where a traveler is woken up, has no link to the present world, has no link to the people that even came before them, and so are always thrust into a situation where they wouldn't understand anything around them other than here's
This
the
is
supposed collective order, right?
Yeah, this is your target. Go find him. Yeah.
And as you find out playing through the game, not non-spoiler, but many of these travelers have died trying to achieve the missions for the collective, and they wouldn't even know what the traveler before them had done unless, they were lucky enough to stumble across their corpse in the process of their own mission. And so it's just kind of like this system that has to be continually broken because there's only one activated at a time, which I just thought that was a really interesting way to set up a world also.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a lot to unpack, and there's elements of futility of just towing the party line, so to speak. There's following orders regardless of the cost. There's like there is so much nuance to what is essentially a game about, stomping through ruined apartment complexes and shooting monsters. Yeah, it's just woven in there really, really well. Yeah, just God, it's making me want to go back and play it again, just talking about it and to see what I might have missed and what changes, based on what I do differently. And it's rare that there is that kind of hook for a horror game. Usually it's like you get to the big reveal and it's like, oh, either that was great or it didn't work, but you know the answer. Here it feels like there's more to discover as you revisit it, which is
Yeah.
kind of remarkable.
Yeah, game also does I don't have this in the notes, but game also does a really nice job, I think, of kind of doing the standard. I don't know if Resident Evil was the first or not, but the like horror game epistolary form, right? Which is just
Mm.
all these things you pick up, and you can choose to read about them or not. Some of them had a little relevance to the game, some of them were mostly just world building, but then there
Mhm.
were also a fair amount of like full motion video scenes where there was characters interacting with each other. And so it's like a mix of meaningful interactions between cutscenes, but also the letters that you find, which, in Resident Evil, like it's more in the letters, and then, yeah, you'll have an
Mhm.
interaction between the characters, but it's probably not really that meaningful in the plot of the game, but here it is,
Yeah.
um, which was cool. So, and some of the characters you meet in the game have pretty nuanced and complex, uh, whatever you want to say here, motivations themselves, basically, which
Yeah.
so appreciate.
Yeah. There aren't many of them, but they're well written. So yeah, I will say again, if you're the type of player who likes knowing all of the answers by the end, might not be the game for you, but if you're someone who likes to kind of like chew on ideas and mull them around and come to your own conclusions, then there's a lot to appreciate here. Again, in terms of like you said, character motivations, in terms of overall world building, in terms of just what the hell happened to bring you here in the first place, there's a lot of things to consider. And yeah, just that level of respect for the player's intelligence and patience. I also have to respect that in turn because It feels like so much of what we get today in entertainment is very much shoved right in front of you. Like this is what you get. This is the answer. This is what you're doing. This is
Right.
who to trust. Here, it takes a back seat and lets you figure that stuff out on your own. By the end, you still end up in the same spot, but getting there, you might find more or less to consider, and by the time you arrive at the end. So yeah,
Absolutely.
the story not entirely clear, but I still think it's solid despite that.
Well, I love them, but why are there cats in this game?
There is, I mean, there's that big long soliloquy if you talk to one of the NPCs about cats
Yes,
and
which was
and how
hilarious.
yeah, I loved the hell out of
Or when the
that.
traveler even talked to the cats, also hilarious.
Yes,
But I
yeah, you
was,
could
but
have
the traveler's like, "Wow, how did you survive, cats?" And I'm like, "How
yeah.
did this cat survive? Why is this cat here?"
Um, they're just they're I think they're more a symbol than anything else. I mean, sure, cats are wily. Cats, mine just hopped up on the table. Cats are resourceful. They are crafty. They know how to take care of themselves. And I think that they really function as kind of a counterpoint to the whole like socialism, collectivism ideas
Mm,
because they survived unscathed while it seems like every damn thing else on the planet died and succumbed to this disease that merges everything together. They're very much a counterpoint, and while cats themselves are lovely creatures, they are it's sort of like how Batman is a symbol. The cats in this are a symbol of something more than what they are as themselves.
a
So
Holocaust. Maybe not.
no, no, sorry, I'm talking to my cat here. Yes, we're
Uh,
talking about your kind. Yes.
see, anything else I have in here? I mean, you kind of already mentioned like the disease in the actual game. Like, we don't really, I don't know if it's ever really confirmed where that comes from.
Yeah, there's like conflicting accounts based on, like you said, the epistolary format of what you find. Like medical records, might say one thing, but someone
Yeah.
else's personal journal might say another.
Hmm.
And it is unless it's explained in the true ending. I think it is also one of those things that's kind of a symbol because it's very much connected to the whole socialist experiment that was going on in Poland in the early 1980s, or at least in this version of Poland in this settlement. So I
Sure.
think it is just kind of a commentary on that. There might be an actual explanation for how it happened, but all I know is it happened in the steelworks. That seems to be what everything points to. So maybe there's something in there we missed.
And caused it all.
Yeah, something. But yeah, it's fascinating, especially when you consider we don't even really know what the travelers are or like where they're from. We don't even know if they're human. They
That's
might,
true.
so it's if they aren't human and there's something else and they have a connection to the disease, then that opens up a whole new kettle of fish right there.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I said, there's a lot to unpack here. But yeah, the story is not clear, but it is good, I would say.
Do you find it weird that this civilization collective build gravity platforms and transforming weapons and leave behind these giant depots, but
Mhm.
apparently we're not crafty enough to build a giant flamethrower to just cure the world while burning all this stuff up? Thinking this,
We're
I'm like, biomass in this game dies with fire, but they're like, no, you know it'd be better? Gravity platforms.
it's like Mad Max. I mean, where are you going to find gasoline in a post-apocalyptic future?
Well, there's a little tiny thing that can seemingly put out an endless supply, so
Yeah, that always kind of bugged me because one of the you should know this going in. There are upgrades for everything, including like the flamethrower. And one of the upgrades for the flamethrower is how much fuel you can carry. That doesn't affect how much fuel these depots spit out at one time. It only affects how much you can craft. So if you're like me and that was one of the first upgrades you go for, you're going to be kind of disappointed because unless
hmm.
you're spending all of your crafting materials making flamethrower fuel, you're only ever still going to get one fuel canister at a time.
Oh,
So
you might have already answered this on our chat, but did you have the essence that gave you the -1 metal discount on crafting?
I did for a while until I replaced him with
Oh,
someone else.
it was so good. I had it at first and I was like, this is so. And then I had it later and I was crafting those landmines for like dirt cheap. for the
Oh, those
whole
things.
last part of the game. And I was like, eventually I was using them to like start fires or like I would just
Nice.
launch them onto bad guys and just keep blowing them up. Like it was amazing. So
Yeah, those things were handy.
that paid off. I wasn't using them before that really, but that eventually was like, yes, these are awesome.
Nice, nice. Um, all right. So gameplay story. We've actually kind of already talked about the presentation. And any other thoughts on that since that it was like the next bullet point
I don't
on
really have much else. I mean, I was just
okay.
going to ask you if you had a favorite, for lack of a better term, a favorite stage or maybe a favorite area.
The I can answer yes. Because for the opening sections of this game, it's kind of like, okay, this is fun. It's well put together, but it's nothing I haven't seen before. And then you get to for lack of a better term, like a deserty area where it's a lot more open. Your vision is a lot more obscured, and it's really easy to lose track of where you're going. So I get to that, and it's like, oh man, this is like wide open. And there's like items to find, and I thought I had figured out what not to do to avoid triggering enemies to like come rushing at me. So I was finding like I was finding ammo, I was finding cores, I was finding valuable items. And then I was wrong, and all of a sudden, four guys are swarming me at once. I don't know like where I'm going. It's like okay, I can try shooting them, but oh wait, what's this? There's noise coming from like the left of me. Shit, there's like two more guys rushing from there. So I just tried to book it, not having any idea where I was going, and just that was where it really clicked for me because I finally found my way to a ladder or something and managed to climb up and get away from them. But at this point, it's like I still have no idea where I am. I can't go back. I found some ammo, but is this going to be enough to like carry me through what's next, or did the game intend for me to like scavenge this area fully? So I was probably 10 minutes away from a save point. There were enemies swarming the area I just was. I was in this like decrepit loft where I don't know where I'm heading next. I'm just trying to like find my way through, ruined passageways and stuff, not knowing what's around the next corner, not knowing when the next save room is going to be. And that was just absolutely peak. I mean, it was a fantastic experience because it sure, I could defend myself, but how long?
Yeah.
Would it be long enough to find a place to save, or was I going to lose all this progress? Just were the things I left down there going to find another way in? It was just incredible, and I was like, my heart was going a mile a minute this entire time because I'm like, shit. I'm like, my health is in the orange. I could take like maybe one or two hits. I don't know what's going to be around any next quarter. It was just incredible. So that I
Yeah.
think was my favorite area.
Yeah. That was a good spot. That was a good stage, that whole
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, what was that, a military encampment or whatever? Basically,
Yeah.
was
I think
that
it was
at the
like
Steelworks?
I think it was like right before. It was like the military cordon that where they had tried to like
Yeah.
quarantine the area or something. And we
Yeah,
saw
that
how
was
well that
good.
worked. Yeah.
Yeah. That's tough. If I had to pick a favorite, I might pick the hospital as my
Mm.
favorite. You know what fight happened in the hospital. That was a pain in the ass, but also kind of spooky how it's presented as well. It's,
Yep.
but just kind of the idea. And I think actually I know the first trailer I saw of this game, that was the location they showed with like one walking through the hallway, and it's kind of like, what
Mm.
is that? And like they shot it from far away.
Oh, nice, nice.
So yeah, that one was really good. I will shout out the Abbey for having the most complex puzzle in the game,
Mm.
which kind of came out of nowhere at me, which I read that thing like 400 times and I was like, I don't know if I know what they're doing. And then got it right on the first try, but I was like,
Oh,
this is interesting.
yeah.
However, I also want to shout out the housing projects, which still has the character I wish I had gone back to talk to the most.
Mm.
So I don't know that anything really would have happened, but I really wanted to have that conversation and I didn't. So
Mm. Gotcha.
yeah,
But
the game is pretty brutal in terms of it's not going to tell you when you're leaving a stage or time to jump
yep.
time, So there's a couple things in stages I just didn't get to go back to. So
Yeah. So which again might be intentional because it might also tie into the whole like life and the things that happen during the course of your travels, your life, the people you meet. It can all be fleeting, and you never quite know when it's going to end. So, yeah, I mean, even that is a message in this, and it's yeah, like I said, there's a surprisingly adept amount of just storytelling here on a variety of levels. It's a parfait. I mean, you think on the surface level, you see one thing, and then you keep going down and down and down, and there are elements there to appreciate and discover. It's
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think anybody who says this is a bad game is just objectively wrong, but
I am inclined to agree.
where your enjoyment level ends up at for the game, fine, but the people that are like, oh, it's just kind of a standard run-of-the-mill game with horror and limited inventory and generic enemy, and I'm like, you're missing the
Eh,
picture here. I feel like I don't know.
right, right.
Shout
Um,
out also to some of the smaller, I wouldn't call them stages, but maybe like little scene pieces, like the art studio. There's a basement that was really memorable as well, and
oh yes.
a certain restaurant that was also memorable for an entirely different reason. So
Yes.
it's
There's like
some
a
good
toy
stuff out there.
store. There's like a toy store at one
Boy,
point
is there.
because the game takes place at least when the outbreak happened. It was around Christmas, so there's that element too. And yeah, there are certain elements around that really tell their own stories in the midst of all this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just really a solid and market improvement from some of their earlier projects. I'll say that right off the bat. Um, so uh, I guess at that point, any other thoughts before we want to slap a rating on this thing?
I don't have any other thoughts, I don't think. I was just going to share, I don't know if I saw this or not. I don't think I did see this. This was, well, actually, this one's dated yesterday.
Oh,
So yeah, one day ago, one day ago. Oh no,
uh-huh.
this one's no, this is one 8 months ago. Well, actually, how come one be one day ago, one be? Anyway, long story
Time
short.
travel.
Oh no, it looks like this goes all the way back to a year ago. This is weird. But anyway, there is when I was looking for the stuff that Bloober Team made, I happened
Hmm.
to notice that they had something called Project M for Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive that comes out in 2026.
Hmm.
And then I just happened to see that apparently there's some websites saying yesterday that it was confirming, but maybe that means reconfirming. I'm not sure what this means exactly. I'm confused. There is a
Hmm.
trailer for this. It's called Project M. You just gotta make sure you find the Bloober version of Project M because apparently Project M is also a knockoff Smash Brothers. Um,
Okay.
so it's a weird ass trailer. It's not really gameplay. I don't really know what's going on here.
Huh. Okay.
But nor do I know where the trailer just went. It just disappeared. But
Oh
anyway,
man, that's
yeah,
viral marketing right there.
kind of bizarro. So it's kind of like
Neat.
a lot of loud noises and bizarre imagery. But maybe that means there's something else coming out for Nintendo.
Huh. I've heard that they're I mean they're remastering or planning to remaster the Silent Hill 1 and 3 at this point, but yeah, I'll have to check this out. Interesting.
Yeah.
So I will say this is one hell of a turnaround story for this company. I mean, it might have started with Silent Hill 2 and their treatment of that, but um if this is what they can put out with in terms of like their original properties at this heading on from this point, I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued to see what they put out next because the last original thing they did was The Medium, and beautiful game, great presentation, not scary in the least. So, but this one really, really made up for that in spades, I think. Um, but interesting. All right, so it sounds like we're kind of wrapping things up, and to me, that seems like it's time for a rating. So, did you want to go first?
I don't care if you want me to, I can.
Sure, go for it.
Well, I actually really enjoyed talking about this with you finally because I mean, we did talk a lot as we played, but it was
We did.
also a little bit of I don't want to spoil this for you, you don't want to spoil this for me type thing.
Right.
There's so many things to praise about the game, which we just ran through a lot. I mean, the fact that I had that many things on my gameplay list alone, that I was like, hold on, I got like six more positives here. Hold on. But that also strikes me as like how memorable elements of the game were because sometimes we do reviews and I'm like, what am I going to talk about for this exactly? Like, and there were these things I liked, but this one I was just making the list and it just kept getting longer and longer and longer. So, like I said, I'm excited to play this again. It probably won't be soon, but I would like to try the new game plus at some point, if for no other reason, to see if it's any different or not. Maybe make a decision different or two as it goes through. Um, if I'm having a great time, maybe go all the way to the end and see what that other ending is. We should point out too, you and I got different endings as it were,
Yes.
um, because we made a different choice at the end of each
Mhm.
other, and I don't know if one of us made the right choice or if there is a right choice, but that's part of the charm of the game, I guess. So.
That it is.
Yeah, it was great. It was also for me, this was because I've been a bit preoccupied with Halloween and negligent on playing the Switch 2 since we got it. This was only really the second game I've played on it, other than Mario Kart a little bit at the beginning. I haven't played our Donkey Kong game that our son has played,
Mhm.
but I really enjoyed it. It was really fantastic. Attempted to play the first night with Joy-Con split, quickly gave up on that and went back to a Pro controller just for the stability of it. I loved it. So I actually raised my rating as we've been talking, I'll be honest. So I'm going to go up to a 9.1. I'm going to settle on for this.
Yes, nice. And as for me, I can echo a lot of what you said. Though you mentioned a lot of which ending you get seems to boil down to one choice at the end. I do kind of wish that what you had done during the course of the game also factored in a bit more. Maybe it does, but with each of us only playing through it once, it's a little hard to say. But I would have liked to maybe see some more of that work in rather than just be a binary choice right at the end. That said, I really, really liked my time with this. Like, in terms of an underdog that really came out of nowhere and surprised me, this is up there with like Tormented Souls, where I really wasn't expecting much out of that, and it surprised the heck out of me in a very good way.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, just beautiful presentation, a strange yet compelling world. Not necessarily much in the way of answers, but a lot in the way of contemplation and replayability. This is just it's a fantastic horror game. My rating is going to be pretty close to yours, 9.0. I did get lost a couple of times simply because I didn't happen to be looking in the right spots to see the thing that I needed to do. Like there is a hub area in this that kind of changes a little bit as you go. And on one of my revisits to it, I probably ran around for 20 minutes looking for which way I was supposed to go to get to the next area and just missing it, missing it, missing it until I finally happened to see out of the corner of my eye one of those grav platforms. I'm like, oh, okay, that's where I'm supposed to go.
Yeah,
I will say the pathfinding in this could have been better. Like there's a little compass, but it's not the most useful thing. That's really my only quibble. Otherwise, just great presentation, great execution, fun gameplay. Um, Honestly, I think it's the game of the year contender for me. Yeah, 9 out of 10. It's very, very solid. And if it's slipped under your radar because of all the other big releases that have been coming out recently, and you like horror, you owe it to yourself to play Cronos: The New Dawn. It is very, very good. Um, yeah, I think it's
agreed.
yeah. So it's been a good Spooktober so far, I think, in terms of what we covered. And yeah, we'll I don't remember what's on the docket for next week, but
We
we've got
have
at least one
Alien
more of
3. I
these.
think we have Alien 3 to finish up.
And there's the cliff. All right. Well, on that note, something to look forward to or not, depending on your history with that series. But it'll be interesting to see what we all think about it.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I think at this point we've gone on for a bit on this game, so we should probably wrap it up. I'm Justin. This has been Cody joining me for this review, and stay spooky, everyone.
All right, bye, guys.
Bye.